Hi, I'm Jack Young with Young Films and Publishing, and this is the How to Write a Screenplay in 3 Days, the Marathon Method. And this is going to be the segment titled, Where Do Ideas Come From? Now in part 2, we're going to assume you have an idea. We're going to use my idea to follow the model and the process to do the Marathon Method. But I wanted to take this time to talk to you a little bit about where ideas come from. And I've got some notes up, you'll see them, where ideas come from. Now, your ideas could be as simple as an idea about teen pregnancy, like in Juno, could be as complex as a film like The Aviator about Howard Hughes' life. So it could be anywhere between those. One of the places, I'm going to talk about some of the places that I get ideas from. Now this may not be where you get them from, but these are some ideas where my ideas come from. A lot of times when I'm starting a screenplay, it comes from some kind of internal questions that I might be asking myself. I'll see a situation and I'll ask a question. Like, for instance, once I was following a cattle truck and I thought, you know, what would those cows say if they could talk? What would they say? Well, from just that question, I ended up writing 2 screenplays. One was Manimals, a short film I did in 1997 with unknown at that time Chris Klein. The other one was an animation screenplay called Animal Revolution, and it was about the same, it was on the same principle but a whole different storyline, but they both came from the same question. I also I did a story called Heaven's Door, and that was really a question about communications. You know, so today's everything's communication, and I thought, gee, where's it going to end at? Maybe one day we'll be able to talk to other worlds and communicate, open up communications. And I thought, what about heaven? What if, you know, heaven is actually another dimension? Maybe there's some way of contacting heaven. So I thought be a neat story. So that was one of the story ideas from question. And then another question I had once was, I worked around a lot of computer systems, and I thought, and I read some articles about you know, CPUs that could simulate human thinking and neural networks, things like that. And I thought, gee, where's that going to end? You know, maybe one of these days I'll actually start using human brains. I mean, and I thought, gee, that'd be kind of interesting. A system based on, you know, using people's brains. You know, after they decease, they take and flush them out and reuse them. I thought that'd be kind of weird. Anyway, that's where that came from. And then another one I had was Stream, and that was based on association with a roommate who did some astral projection. We talked about it, and I thought it was really interesting, this out-of-body travel, and I thought maybe I could use that into a story. But that was from, you know, some questions and personal experiences. Another thing is some personal experiences. Out of frustration trying to get into Hollywood, I thought, gee, you know, there's got to be a story there, being so frustrated trying to break into Hollywood. And I did a screenplay called Desperate in Hollywood about a writer trying to break into the system in Hollywood. I thought, that's from your own personal frustration. And let's go to the next source would be articles. I read an article about a guy in Chicago who developed a Christmas tree service where you come out and decorate your tree and stuff. I thought, that'd be an interesting job for a screenplay if I could figure out some characters. And I saw some handicapped workers at work that were cleaning the building, and I thought, I bet they really could, you know, be an interesting character to look at things totally different. And so I ended up combining those two to create a storyline. And then another source is True Life. I mean, I'd discovered, I was reading the paper one day, and I don't normally read obituary, but I read an article about a young girl who died from cancer, and the article was just amazing. They were talking about how much zest for life she had up to the very end. I ended up getting together with the mother and writing that story, and just stumbled. So sometimes you stumble, you look at things, and you go, man, that'd make an interesting story. Another thing is looking at novels and for adaptations. I mean, Frank Darabont approached Stephen King wanting to write some screenplays for some of his original books, and Stephen King was nice enough to sell him the rights for $1 to write screen. And it turned out, you know, Frank Darabont's directing now. He's written a lot of adaptations of Stephen King's. So another place, so you can look at novels and you can approach them, and you know, talk to them about if anybody's doing an adaptation, you'd like to try, if you really are passionate about it. Sometimes a single word can spark, an idea or storyline. I was reading I sometimes go through the dictionary looking at words and see if it sparks something, and I found the word darklings, and all of a sudden I started getting these images of these things underground, and so, it doesn't take a lot, but you're looking for that spark, and it could come from newspaper, personal experiences, people you know, a question that you ask yourself that you just dismiss. Don't dismiss it. It's an idea. So, but anyway, so these are where ideas come from, and usually, you have to make them, even though it's a spark, you take that idea and say, this would be a neat storyline, and then we'll take the storyline and try and flesh it out. So we're going to do that in our later segments. We're going to flesh out the storyline that I came up with in part 2, and go from there. Anyway, I'll see you in part 2.